SaaS Backwards is sponsored by Austin Lawrence Group, specializing in demand gen for SaaS. It sure is noisy. I deleted 100 emails from vendors just this morning. Your buyer has gotten better at ignoring you, and you're gonna need a big idea if you want to cut through all that clutter. Austin Lawrence is just the right agency to help you find it. So if your campaigns are falling on deaf eyeballs, let's talk. Visit austinlawrence.com today and let's build something bigger.
Welcome to the SaaS Backwards podcast, where we reverse engineer the success of fast-growing SaaS firms and explore strategies CMOs and CEOs are using to drive their businesses forward.
Welcome to SaaS Backwards, a podcast that helps SaaS CEOs and CMOs to accelerate growth and enhance profitability. Our guest today is Brandon Most, Head of Marketing for GoLinks, a generative AI knowledge management productivity platform. Hey, Brandon, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, could you tell us just a little bit more about your background and your company, GoLinks?
Yeah, I'd love to. So been in marketing for over 15 years, kind of got the introduction into marketing as a marketing analyst. And what that really allowed me to do is understand what sales are needing to be successful, understand reporting KPIs and all those types of things that helped me become, I think, a better marketer, and then transitioned into solution and product marketing. And ultimately, in my last two companies, kind of led the marketing function from demand gen to paid media to basically everything. But I'm excited about the opportunity that GoLinks presented. So we are a platform built to solve the knowledge management information access problem that almost every organization has. Right. So you have hundreds of apps that are connected today, and you need to be able to find information quickly. And you can't do that by asking peers or searching in each individual app. So with our suite of productivity solutions, we're able to solve that problem and give employees hours back each day.
Well, I think the problem space is really interesting in that we do have information everywhere, and the number of applications that we're confronted with just seems to grow, especially those of us that engage with outside organizations regularly. It's not only our own applications, which could be, 5, 10, 15, 20 things we're looking at, but could be even external organizations that we support or work with. So definitely a real interesting problem space. Why don't we just get right into it and talk about what your company's software does and how these products really impact employee productivity? Let's dig in a little bit right there.
Yeah, I'd love to. So we started as a YC19 company, GoLinks, right? So our founder came from Yahoo, had a lot of the same internal tools that we're looking to build there. And what we've done is rebuilt those with much more analytics, more feature set, generative AI built on top of it, and kind of gave it to the whole market. So we have GoLinks, which is the easiest way to access information with short, intuitive GoLinks. So think go/marketing going to a Salesforce dashboard. And then what we built recently is our enterprise AI search tool called Go Search, which connects hundreds of apps together to one universal search engine, but built AI on top of it. So think about asking a question, getting an answer, and getting not only a summary of the answer in context to what you asked, but links to relevant documentation. The last product we built is a product called Go Profiles. And what's interesting about that is everybody is kind of working either hybrid or remote nowadays. And a lot of people's morale and productivity is going down because of that. So we all know happy employees or successful employees. And what this does is allow for peer recognition. It has an organizational chart and people search. So now you can connect with like-minded people across the organization, no matter where they live. So those three solutions together ultimately have an impact of helping people find information quickly and stay connected and informed. And that ultimately makes people more productive and happy.
Yeah, I remember some time ago when IBM became a really global player, one of the things they were touting was this database of all 360,000 people in the company and the ability to connect with the right people to form teams. Is that part of the benefit here of the Go Profiles capability?
Yeah, so Go Profiles integrates with your HRIS system, but it allows you to add any custom field. So it could be favorite food, favorite movie, favorite pastime, different groups, skills, interests, all those types of things. And now you just ask a question. So, when I demo this a lot, some of the questions I ask is, who lives in Kansas City that likes pizza? Well, there's three of us in Kansas City, but only one other person that likes pizza that in our platform. So it gives me an opportunity to connect with like-minded people, but also with groups and skills and peer recognition. You're able to celebrate people and get the company rallying around the success of other people. And ultimately that leads to higher morale and higher productivity.
Well, yeah, definitely the remote and hybrid workspace. We talk about that all the time internally. For us, we're a dispersed workforce, and creating culture and maintaining satisfaction, top of my list as company owner. So really important stuff. Why don't we turn our attention to how you're going to market for GoLinks? And what I think people should know, this is primarily the motion here is product-led growth, right?
Yeah, we have several motions. I think product-led growth was initially huge for GoLinks several years back. Everything was coming from bottoms up, getting people to buy in, expand, and then ultimately purchase an enterprise plan. But I think as of late, as the market dynamics have shifted, as the companies that we typically market to of SMB and mid-market are looking for funding and kind of looking to get lean on the product stack, a lot more enterprise global rollouts of 5,000, 10,000 employees have came to us, and they kind of go from an enterprise motion. So we married those two together because a lot of times the initial interest comes from potentially lower level colleagues who use the product. And then we ultimately get an inbound from a VP executive who's wanting to learn more and buy it for the company. And we share those results and offer free trials, even in the enterprise motion. So it's definitely shifted and changed over the last couple of years as the market shifted. And the companies who have budgets and line items for productivity tools tend to be larger mid-market enterprise companies.
Yeah, those are the folks that can really see a benefit from a 10 or 20 or 30% boost in productivity, right? So let's talk about how you're going to market. What are the core elements of the marketing plan? How are you driving demand, and how do these things fit together in your mind?
Yeah, that's three products that we're thinking of as separate brands. Eventually we'll roll out with a new overarching brand. So you kind of provides us some unique opportunities and challenges as well. So some of the things that we do for GoLinks will not work for GoSearch. So GoLinks and GoProfiles, we have a freemium motion because we have free trial motions where they can go bottoms up. We have outbound for marketing as well to try to generate interest and awareness. We tie that with an SDR outreach married to that, looking for conversion. We have your traditional paid marketing strategies against competitors and non-branded keywords. We have an SEO strategy that we're really working hard on, especially for the new products where there's high competition. And then we also kind of looking through what we call PCL, previous champion leads. So basically people who have used GoLinks, heavy users of a GoLinks system, because there are some internal tools that are similar at LinkedIn, Netflix, et cetera. And people who have familiarity with the tool are usually kind of sticky. So we target them as they move from company to company through our previous champion lead motion. So we have SQL, MQL, PCL, and PQL motions that we all work for. GoSearch is a little different. It takes a lot more work to connect all your apps and a lot more finances on our side to get it up and running. So we don't really have a PLG motion for GoSearch. A lot of the same traditional channels we're still working and applying hard. I think for GoSearch, since it's an enterprise search solution and it's a highly competitive category, but a known category, our goal has really been focusing on SEO, organic conversions, as well as referral traffic from databases and peer sites and review sites that can bring relevant traffic to our website for conversion.
There's a fair amount to unpack in that answer there, I think. So I think you mentioned that these products are going to become more distinct as brands. What does that planning look like, and how distinct will they really become?
I think long-term vision, they will be separately as like own business units. Think of Atlassian as they had multiple brands underneath them. Think of Freshworks as they have multiple brands underneath them. So it's going to be that at some point in the future. Right now, GoLinks is the company, but we have separate profiles for social, for websites, et cetera, across both other products. Well, that's a great saying. It's a challenging thing for marketing because now we got to build brand awareness, domain authority, organic traffic across three different domains. And it becomes a challenge as you think about even the simplest thing is like tracking people who went from one site to another. GA4 doesn't do that. They're separate instances. Luckily, we have it all tied into the same HubSpot instance, and we can track some of those correlations between sites. But it does present, a finance budgeting problem. You got three products you have to bring to market. You got essentially the same staff bringing three different brands or products to market. So I think it brings an interesting challenge for us, but one that I think will pay huge dividends in the year or two, but maybe a little more challenging to get off the ground here in the near term.
Yeah, I think career-wise for you and folks you work with also, that's kind of cool. I mean, you're the master of multiple motions and you have to learn from that. And earlier career people probably find that pretty stimulating. They have a PLG motion and an enterprise motion in the same company. Pretty unusual for an early to mid-career person to work with. You also mentioned about KPIs. I want to know what you're actually measuring, like what you think is really important. I mean, I have a point of view, but I'd love to hear what you think is most important. Like, what are the top 3 or 4 things that, you're speaking with your peers and senior management about that you measure and how that translates into action in the marketing group?
No, that's a great question. So I align myself and my department with sales goals. So because of that, the top goals that we measure are qualified pipe, cost per qualified pipe, and qualified is meaning it goes to stage 2. And then ultimately revenue. Now, you can unpack that and go level below, and we can look at individual campaigns and look at cost per opportunity and look at cost per lead, cost per contact, and all those things we do measure. But ultimately, what I report to the board is how we doing from a pipeline generation, what percentage of that pipeline is converting to stage 2 or qualified pipe, and then how do we as a marketing organization support that qualified pipe in the close of that pipe through deal acceleration events, through aligning with customers for reference calls. So we really work hand in hand with the sales organization, and we all succeed or we all fail together. It's not a sales problem. It's not a marketing problem. It's a problem if we don't hit those goals for the organization. And I think that's the way you got to approach it. So there's not that finger pointing, because that can hurt morale and kind of stifle growth for startup companies.
So to maybe take it out of your own language, you guys are aligning around opportunity generation, right? So it's like real opportunities being generated is the alignment point for sales and marketing.
Yep. We basically think of an opportunity as somebody willing to take a call. So we don't stop there. What I think about is somebody who took the first call and there's a second step in the action of moving that deal forward. That's what I call stage 2, qualified pipe, and that's what we report on.
I've been trying to popularize an idea of meaningful conversations. It's like, are we having a real conversation, or did somebody get dragged into a demo or some meeting that they really had no intention for? I just think it's really interesting. You're saying many of the same things. It's like we want to have not just the first conversation, but there is a reason to go further in building some kind of thought process, right?
Yeah. And to be honest, like we're aligning the SDR structure against that as well. So even the SDR team, it's not just getting the right person to take a call. They're actually getting comp based on getting them to that second step after the first call, where there's already genuine interest in the product and moving forward. And then even further to that is offering them a small piece of the puzzle if that opportunity that they bring in does close. So as an organization, we're really aligning toward qualified pipe conversion and obviously revenue.
That sounds pretty smart to me. Many of us have witnessed SDRs with bad motivation, right? So they're just motivated to get someone to a meeting. 30, 40, 50% of those meetings don't happen. Everybody's time is wasted. Especially in a young company, you can't afford to have an AE sitting in a meeting that doesn't happen, right?
So now we look at the handoff process. We've had several iterations of how that works between the SDR and AE, or even marketing to the AE, right? So we've refined that over time, and we have separate sales criteria by product because they're a little different persona, and we've kind of tightened those. As we've seen some of the other kind of departmental kind of entry points not being the success that we'd want. And so we've tightened that sales criteria even further, which for some SDR leaders might seem as a problem, but for them, they're taking it as an opportunity to get tighter with the sales organization and ultimately know that if they're successful, so with SDR, and how they're successful, right? They get dollars. So that's a really big thing that we've done recently with the SDR group.
And do they report into marketing or sales, the SDRs?
They actually report into sales, but marketing and sales, the head of sales and myself work hand in hand with them to kind of think about how we approach the multi-product scenarios. When do we target one product or multiple products based on their persona, based on if they have used a GoLinks system in the past, based if they used a competitor enterprise search solution in the past. So we have like a decision tree that we built together and trained them on how do we get the right sequence or right messaging in front of the right person based on their previous experience or the tools that they've used in the past. And what we're hoping with that and what we've executed so far in the last quarter is we'll have maybe not the same volume as a kind of a spray and pray model, but more of a quality pipeline. So we're focused on conversion and quality than volume. And I think it's great to report 20 million in pipeline, but if only 3 million of that is qualified, it's actually not pipe. It's just conversations. And
I think we call that a pipe dream, right? So
pipe dream, that's right. Yeah, we only look at if it's qualified, and I think that's the metric that sales and marketing should align to, and align on what makes it qualified, from SAL criteria to even in opportunity decision criteria that you have to document and track against.
That's really great. I appreciate you unpacking that for folks, because I think a marketing leader or CEO listening kind of asks themselves the question, hey, are we aligning that deeply on what it takes to get actual qualified pipeline generated? So that's awesome. I want to turn our attention back to the big picture from a marketing standpoint about differentiating these 3 products. You brought it up that especially in search, this enterprise search category has been around a while. In fact, I think we did some work in enterprise search maybe 20 years ago. So enterprise search is definitely a thing, and there are benefits to being able to find information that's relevant to you in your work in a white collar workforce and many blue collar jobs as well. So how do we get a new product, a new entrant, some mind space in this kind of category?
And you're right. It has been around a while. It was an enterprise search solution about 10 years ago that I marketed, completely different. So I understand the landscape. I understand what we need to do to differentiate ourselves because of that previous experience, which is helpful. So like a lot of those are like based on internet searching, right? Which is, it's shifting and changing as everybody has applications that we connect to. So I think there's like I don't want to say old school, but I lump them into that. And then like the new school, which is basically AI enterprise search, which is connecting all the applications and indexing that data and applying generative AI on top of it to be able to ask intelligent questions and follow-up questions that the AI helps not only find the resource, but pulls out the context of that, summarizes that, and makes it more actionable. So there's a handful of players in the industry that are doing that. And so that's the area that we're focusing on is AI enterprise search and those competitors. But how we differentiate against them is more around our security stance. We have a really tight security posture around what's being indexed. So the wrong information like payroll, layoff list, or anything like that gets in the hand of the wrong person. We also have a concept of personal connectors, which allows us to be able to connect my email or my calendar or my personal My Drive, and not only search Slack as well, not only search the enterprise that's connected to that data, but also within my own results, which is pretty impactful for me as well. So those 2 things help us differentiate in our speed to innovation. So we are using multimodal enterprise search. We have customers that you probably know of. I probably shouldn't list them here, but probably the 2 biggest players in the space of AI. And as they come up with new technology, we get them right away, we leverage them. And that includes like AI summaries, URL summaries, document summaries, custom GPTs to build specific action-based tasks that helps you as an employee to do your job better. So I think those 3 things really help differentiate us. But the biggest challenge is getting in the mind share in that space. And that's where we leverage SEO, referral traffic, peer reviews, and things like that to help build that mind share in organic search, and now focusing in on a thought leadership strategy as well here in the near term.
Yeah. So, wow, that was a big answer. There's a lot in there. But first of all, I want to encourage you. It's fine to go after old school. One of my favorite marketing strategies, messaging strategies, is to pick a defenseless villain. The old school search, enterprise search, seems like a pretty defenseless villain, and kind of marrying it up to that siloed idea that it might be just your intranet or a limited scope that these tools can actually address, I think is a great way to position when it takes a bunch of players off the table if you get people to buy into that right away, right? So you reduce the competitive set by 80, 90% maybe just by getting somebody to buy into that. There was also a lot there in, I think, the idea of integrating your personal space. I mean, we're all creating tons of text in our professional lives. And I think to be able to go back at that, I know that I'm on a Mac and I'm always using Spotlight trying to find my old stuff, and it's, kind of hit or miss. So I think there's a lot in that could be very valuable. People can see the use case, right? They can imagine themselves in the use case, which is really important in trying to sell something new. And the third thing I wanted to hone in on here was I had one of the founders of Moz on the podcast as a result of the Ascent conference recently. And he was saying that SEO is a finite game, that it's going to become so much more dependent on what AI is taking away from the content that we publish. And you've talked a couple of times about SEO being important. So I wonder how you're positioning yourself, because today still we can do traditional SEO, but those days are numbered. And I'm wondering how you're looking ahead to that. So that was the third thing I wanted to kind of transition to and ask you about.
I think every marketer, content marketers, probably thinking about this already. How much content can even be generated by AI? What risk does that pose in terms of Google's algorithms as they start advancing and detecting some of that? And how does that hurt overall, short-term growth, but maybe long-term, it hurts you tremendously. So we use AI as an ability to help us scale faster, but it's a starting point versus what some companies do. And you can tell by reading it is basically generated by AI. But I think time will tell how much of this content that we create through AI is going to hinder SEO growth and SEO authority, brand authority to your website. But, we see it as an enabler today. So I think that, again, the time was going to tell, and we try not to lean on it too heavily because we see the potential risk down the road.
Yeah, I mean, here we're not using ChatGPT to generate much content. We do use it for outlining. It's a productivity tool, not a replacement for the writing skills of professional writers at all. The other thing I wanted to ask you, and maybe this is a good time to ask, you mentioned a couple of times the use of ratings and review sites. And I'd say not every marketer has that in their toolbox. So can you talk a little bit about the value of ratings and reviews and, where you have three products, right? They're very different in their ways, where ratings and reviews fit into your demand generation plan?
Yeah, we have a couple different approaches of how we generate reviews built into the motion, right? So for GoLinks and GoProfiles, where we still have a freemium motion, we obviously hit them up with surveys based on how they rate us on an NPS type score. And we use different criteria to ensure that they're the right people that we want to give us reviews. They have the right access to the right features so that's a good review. But we automate that through our tools and we automate that through Intercom right now and through our NPS strategy. So if they give us a good score there, it automatically funnels into an opportunity for a review. And so we get a lot of free users giving us reviews, but then as we launch the enterprise motion and they kind of start adoption, we look at some adoption scores and metrics that we track. And when they hit those thresholds, there's an automated email to touch that pushes them to a G2 review. And that's helped us scale. I think we had 71 when I joined 18 months ago. And I think on GoLinks for like 375 or 475, I lose track. So it's helped scale tremendously. And then we look at referral traffic from those review sites, specifically G2, Capterra, others, and see how much traffic is coming from those that are either coming to our site and converting or just coming to our site to see the value. Now, for some of the new products, even GoLinks, we use the review sites as another way to drive SEO and referral traffic. They have high brand authority, typically Capterra, Gartner, all these different ones. And there's a bunch of niche ones out there for generative AI. And that back traffic and referral traffic and backlinks has really helped our SEO growth as well. So it's not really like hacking the system, if you will, but it's a good opportunity to leverage those tools to bring good traffic to your site that are interested. And then obviously help your brand and your SEO as an impact of that, I guess.
So kind of digging down a layer, sounds like that's a HubSpot workflow being implemented there. Is that right?
It's actually, we're building it through Intercom. So Intercom is what we use to track all the kind of product data. And then we use Intercom to do a lot of the kind of workflows there. HubSpot's more for like prospecting and things like that in our database of tools.
Fair enough. So, and I imagine you have paid relationships with G2 and Capterra, is that right?
We actually don't. We explored it early on for GoLinks. The challenge with that is GoLinks kind of falls into a weird category. So it's really solving kind of the status quo problem versus a category of solutions like ours. We're standalone outside of internal tools that built something similar. So we get lumped into like URL shorteners, but then we get lumped into Rebrandly and Bitly, and that's more of an external use case. Ours is more of an internal use case to find relevant information with short, intuitive GoLinks. And so we didn't really decide it was valuable there. We thought it would bring a lot of false traffic to the site. And so we actually opted against it. I think there's definitely opportunities as we think about, especially Go Search in the enterprise search category, specifically with Capterra and G2 to do stuff with them, whether it's Capterra's PPC, testing that at a low cost to see if we can get good traffic and conversions, or a paid relationship with G2 and accessing their kind of third-party data. But at this point, we haven't done that yet. But at my last company, we used it heavily. We built it into every scenario. We built all the competitive views and things like that into automated sequences and things like that. So it's definitely a good source of competitive intent data, as well as just people interested in your category that you can hit up with specific sales sequences and marketing sequences.
Awesome. And I think also there's a play here with analysts, right? Especially in enterprise search. Is that something that you're responsible for as well?
I was going to say unfortunately, but yes, we are. So we do not have a paid relationship with any of the big analysts today, but we leverage the quarterly review briefings with Gartner, McKinsey, Forrester, and likely a few others, especially as we mature our products and add new features and things like that. It's something we do quarterly with each of them. The idea there is to still be top of mind for anybody that comes in that may ask about an innovative AI enterprise search solution, that we can get referrals from them, but also as a way to maybe be included in certain research that they're coming out of, and making sure that we're included in a lot of those things. So
I think you have to do it, especially in a category that's going to, I guess, reemerge, right? So enterprise search, they might have even dropped coverage on enterprise search at some point. But
there's just niche areas within enterprise search now that they're building that we want to be a part of as well.
I think it's really important. And I think anytime you have a real enterprise solution, you got to be looking at what's the role of analysts? Have they started, ceased, or ongoing coverage in the space?
And one thing I'll add, I guess, is we identify there's obviously analysts for different categories, and some of our products overlap multiple categories. So sometimes we're doing multiple briefings with multiple analyst groups to ensure that in the category they support, that they're familiar with our tech stack or product stack. So I think that's important for companies who maybe overlap multiple categories. Don't just think of the one person in that one category. You want to go pretty wide within that analyst group to increase the awareness of your product.
Yeah. And for listeners that haven't done the analyst relations game, you don't need to be a paid customer of the top tier firms to get inclusion in their reports. I mean, you're not going to get most favored nation kind of treatment, but you will get your shot to brief the analysts and have a chance to be included in significant reports that they're already doing. So I think it's just really important to put that in your mindset. If you have an enterprise product, these folks can drive a lot of opportunity for you, even in an unpaid relationship.
Yeah. And I would say, early on, they're so expensive. It's hard to bite the bullet to pay for that, which gives you full access to the analyst. But in all transparency, it still takes 6 to 8 weeks to get in front of them. And the quarterly briefings that you have, you can probably do about the exact same thing. So if you don't have the team to support meeting with them and having them influence your strategy, then it's not worth it. I will want to make one note, because at my last company, we bit the bullet early at a Series A because they were developing a brand new category that we wanted to help influence. And we needed to be kind of top mind of how that shaped. And so we bit the bullet because we knew that was going to be more impactful than letting other competitors kind of shape that category. And we just had to live with the results. So I think each scenario is a little unique, but I definitely would think through a couple of different options before you say it's the right time or not.
Yeah. And those paid relationships, you use the analyst calls that come with it, where you're asking for their advice is the notional starting point for those calls. But it's a chance for them to get to know you better. And familiarity with those analysts, it does lead to better outcomes. So if it's appropriate to your situation in an enterprise product, definitely worth looking at that investment.
I also encourage you to connect with them on LinkedIn, because then they see your content when you post it, subconsciously or not. So that's not necessarily a hack, but I think it's a good thing to do, is connect with all the analysts across all the different communities that you're talking to. And therefore you kind of get their top of mind outside of the normal quarterly cadences.
Yeah. And as the digital natives kind of move through the workforce, that's much more accepted than it might have been 5 or 10 years ago. If someone's 45 or younger at an analyst firm, they're expecting to connect with you in multiple ways. So that's great. That's a great hack. I think that is actually a hack. Speaking of LinkedIn, I noticed on your profile, and I think is where I want to land the episode, because I think it was a really interesting thing about you. Not only are you certified by the Pragmatic Institute, but also you participate in a number of informal organizations of marketing folks. Can you kind of talk about those as a group, how those things help you in your career? Because not everybody participates, right? These are relatively small organizations, PMMA or Pavilion, but I just think it'd be interesting for you to share how those have helped you in your career.
Yeah, I'd love to. So originally, some of those were more selfishly to benefit the company that I was working for. So I think Product Marketing Alliance joined early, was one of the first adopters in Kansas City, because there's a lot of good templates and resources and things like that. And we know that every good idea has a template, right? So it was a good way to get some of that as I was growing in my product marketing career. Some of the other ones were more strategic at that time, right? So we were focused in on high growth SMB mid-market companies, and the right personas just happened to be the revenue go-to-market organization. And so joining Revenue Alliance at the time, now it's Pavilion, Rev Genius, some of these other kind of specialty rev ops and sales and marketing groups was a way to make good connections with people through natural conversations that ultimately led into actual sales conversations. But I do get a lot of value in them. One of the things that I use, like the Pavilion and some of the CMO groups I'm in, is maybe I'm looking for a specific freelancer. Maybe I'm looking for who can get me introduced into a certain PR firm for a press release, who to help me hire somebody that they may know in their network. So they're more targeted and tailored ask for specific things that I'm looking for. And a lot of times those community members are really receptive to responding. And it shortens time to research to do some of those things because they've already done it, they've already experienced it, and they're happy to help. And I think the second thing is some of those offer good certifications, which help with career growth, understanding the market, understand what it takes to be a CMO. And about 2 years ago, I took their CMO course and got a certificate in that. And connecting with people who have done it, who are in large companies, who've done it for 20, 30 years as a CMO is really valuable, and you'll learn a lot. So I think if you are in these, make sure that you're engaged, make sure you're using it. Don't just have it be something you put on your LinkedIn profile resume, like actively use them because they are valuable.
Yeah, that's a great point, great place to land the episode. I think professional networking is highly under leveraged. And in order to be effective in that, you have to give without the expectation of receiving. And then when you have that ask, it's a good chance people recognize that you've been a contributor and want to help you out. And speaking of connecting, Brandon, how can people connect with you and learn more about your company?
So you can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. You'll see I'm pretty active on there. So that's one way, but definitely check out if you're interested in any of the things we talked about from a product standpoint. Our websites are there. You should be able to find us, but LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me and kind of keep up to date on what I'm doing as well as what the company that I work for is doing.
Awesome. And if people want to reach me, I'm on LinkedIn/in/Ken Lempit. If you haven't subscribed yet to the podcast, please do so wherever you pick up your podcasts. And reviews of the podcast also are really important to us, showing up in search on those directories. My demand generation agency is Austin Lawrence Group. We're at austinlawrence.com. And Brandon Most, I want to say thank you so much for being a great guest on SaaS Backwards.
Hey, thanks, Ken, for having me. I appreciate it. It was a good conversation. I enjoy these.
Great. That was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the SaaS Backwards podcast, brought to you by Austin Lawrence Group. We're a growth marketing agency that helps SaaS firms reduce churn, accelerate sales, and generate demand. Learn more about us at www.austinlawrence.com. You can email Ken Lempit at kl@austinlawrence.com about any SaaS marketing or customer retention subject. We hope you'll subscribe, and thanks again for listening.